The essence of colonialism is the belief that the colonizing power has a moral superiority over the subjects they colonize. The colonizer uses this notion of superiority to assert their claim of power over the subject people. This was true in both colonial Mexico and India. This led to the creation of hierarchical social classes based on race, which gave power to the Europeans and oppressed the native people. When Cortez and the Spanish conquered the Aztec Empire and gained control of what is now Mexico, they asserted their superiority over the Indian people and created a hierarchical society where the Spanish had power over the Indians. However, due to the very small number of Spanish women in the New World, the Spanish had no option but to mix with the Indian and black population in order to reproduce. The mixture between the Spanish, Indians, and blacks in New Spain throughout many generations made race difficult to differentiate, and therefore the Spanish created the casta system. To show the distinction between the different castas, artists began to depict the different castas in paintings, usually in collections of 16 different paintings. Casta paintings began to appear in the 18th century in Mexico and continued to gain popularity with the people of Spain, where they would be showcased. As shown in this painting by Miguel Cabrera of a Spanish man with his mestiza wife and therefore castiza daughter, they are shown with elaborate clothing, which would suggest them as being wealthy and in the upper levels of colonial society. In contrast, Miguel Cabrera's painting of a Lobo man, Indian woman, and El Barazado child shows a different social class. The man and the child are shown with torn clothing, as the woman carries bread in her hands as well as on her back. As they have less Spanish blood, they are shown to be in a lower socio-economic class. People, especially the Creoles, became more and more upset that only the Peninsulares, or people born in Spain, held all the power. This eventually led Miguel Hidalgo, a Creole priest, to revolt searching for equality between races. Although the revolutionaries were successful in gaining independence from the Spanish, the social structure of Mexico did not change much. The majority of the ruling class continued to be concentrated in the white descendants of Spanish settlers. As seen in this opulent banquet of the inauguration of the Mexico-Cuernavaca railways, the majority of the people photographed seemed to be white elites, headed by Porfirio Diaz. Then, in 1910, people like Pancho Villa revolted against dictator Porfirio Diaz to return land to the common people. On the other side of the globe, the British had the same idea that the Spanish had, that they were morally superior to the native people of India. This superiority is highlighted in Rudyard Kipling's White Man's Burden, where he calls for the British people to save the Indians from themselves and make them civilized. Indians were regarded by the British businessmen as inferior and believed that very few Indians had the character required for business and lacked leadership qualities. It was important for the British, as well as the Indians who wanted to be in a high social class, to behave like a British person.
Tomorrow I'll tell you about my days in a police hospital.
Come.
Just like proper English gentlemen, I'm proud of them.
They're boys, and they're Indian.
In India, there were also class distinctions between the people of the Hindu religion. The Hindu religion separates people into 5 castes, with the Brahmins at the highest level of society, who are priests and scholars. In this picture taken by William Johnson, we can see a group of Nagar Brahmins. They are pictured with elaborate clothing and depict what the upper class of Hindu caste looks like. Pictured here are the Kumbhars, or potters, who make part of a low caste. We can see the much simpler clothing they are wearing, and they are also barefoot, which gives them a sense of poverty. British photographers such as William Johnson created collections of photographs of different groups of Indian people. These photographs were staged and the subjects were carefully chosen in order to represent the group of people. The purpose of these collections was similar to that of the Spanish casta paintings. They were used as a way to classify the Indians into different groups as well as assert power over them. However, British control and unfair treatment of the Indian people irritated many, such as Gandhi. Gandhi, who was a successful attorney, turned from acting and dressing as an Englishman to wearing only homespun cotton clothes.
And just behind her comes Mr. Gandhi, dressed as he said he would be, in just his loincloth, even in the chilly climes of Europe.
Through non-violent civil disobedience, Gandhi helped India gain its independence in 1947. As seen, it was important for the colonizers to install a hierarchical class system based on race in order to retain power and control over the native people. Since there were much fewer Europeans in the colonies than there were native people, they had to be given the power over the rest of the population based on the idea of superiority over them. However, native people rose up against the colonizers in search of equality. This led to the creation of Mexico, India, and Pakistan as their own independent countries.